Pokémon Scarlet and Violet has had one of the most mind-boggling game releases ever. It's no question that the game has a slew of game-breaking bugs, performance issues, and graphical problems, and yet it's also the fastest-selling Nintendo game ever. It's worth starting things off on a positive note. So much of the conversation around Pokémon Scarlet and Violet has been about how broken the game is and how it's really not up to the standard of what you've come to expect from Pokemon. And underneath all of that conversation, underneath all the issues and the problems that this game clearly has, I do believe there is a decent Pokemon game to be played. So while none of the issues are excusable, I think all of the things that everyone's called out are real and problematic. I am having a good time with Pokemon Violet. Overall, the game is fun to play. I'm 20 hours deep and I'm 8 story beats into the story itself. Training my Pokemon has also been enjoyable. I've only been using new Pokemon to the series, and that's been a lot of fun. I don't know these Pokemon, they're brand new, and it's a good way for me to freshen up my experience. I mean, I've been playing Pokemon since I was in junior high school, so I need to try some things to keep it fresh for myself. One thing I've really enjoyed about this game is the way they break up the story, or I should say stories. Typically, Pokemon games bounce players between fighting gym battles and fighting whatever evil organization is trying to take over the world using Pokemon. But this game breaks that cycle and gives you the choice as to what path you want to follow first. Maybe you're looking for just a typical Pokemon adventure and you want to hunt down all 8 gym badges. Do you want to chase down a Pokemon gang called Team Star and overthrow their entire operation? Or maybe you want to chase down gigantic Pokemon which have grown huge for some unknown reason while helping somebody learn more about them. Actually, you can do all these things at the same time, or you can focus in on one path at a time. The choice is yours. This might be my favorite part of the entire game. The story has never been broken up so neatly, and it does feel like one big progressive move towards the right thing we want for Pokemon. And since this is an open world game, it's fair to expect a lot out of the exploration portion in particular. With that in mind, it's actually a lot of fun to choose what destinations I'm going to next rather than just following the story, but it's also fun to find new Pokemon at these destinations. After all, that's what the game is about, catching and battling Pokemon. And since your ability to explore only gets better the more you progress through the story, you're encouraged to do so because the open world aspect of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet lends itself well to exploration. So exploring is fun, finding new Pokemon is fun, finding new items is fun, and playing the story is fun. This game is objectively fun to play. And just as the game is fun to play, it also can be quite frustrating to play as well. And this of course brings us to the things that I just don't like about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This includes performance issues as well as gameplay decisions that blow my mind. One of my favorite things about open world games is exploring and getting lost in the world, and nothing takes you out of that experience faster than a gameplay stutter or a gameplay issue or something like that. So when I find cool areas to explore and the second thing that happens is my character starts moving really slowly and other characters start animating really weirdly, I'm instantly reminded that I'm playing a video game that is on a system that might need to be upgraded, but also a game that needs to be optimized. I don't want to be thinking about any of these things while I'm exploring Paldea. I just want to catch Pokemon and fight them. I just want to check out that waterfall or look at what that tree's doing or something like that. Now, one of my favorite parts about playing on home consoles rather than playing games on a PC is that the hardware is a fixed variable. So what this means is that when developers go to make a game on a console, they know what they're working with. Everything is a fixed set of specifications, and there's not a lot of guessing room. This is how a game can play on that console. And GameFreak's not new to this. They've made games for the Switch before. They made 2 great games for the Switch. Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus are both really fun Pokemon games that use the Switch well. I don't know all the technical stuff. I just know that they've built for this console before, but Pokemon Scarlet and Violet feels like a game that wasn't built for the Switch. But that is a ridiculous statement. Now, I know there's theories going around that people think this was supposed to be a Switch Pro game. I'm not going to sit here speculating. So why wouldn't they optimize it for the Switch? The answer is really simple. They probably didn't have the time to do it because they had to get this game out the door. Performance issues aside, there are parts of this game that simply do not look good. There are some sections with some obvious textural issues that are related to the game's performance, but I'm more so referring to the scale of the towns compared to how big the people are. I'm not sure if it's because of the open world aspect of this game in particular. The streets look way wider than they need to be, and also the houses seem very far apart inside of towns. I imagine this was to create a sense of scale, but overall the characters look quite disjointed from the world that they're in. That is both in the quality of the character models compared to how the world looks, as well as the size disparity that just seems off. Somehow this doesn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the exploration in the world, so that's going for me, but in general, there are some things that I look at and go, that looks weird. Some of the mountains just look like a lump of Play-Doh that was placed there and left as a lump. I know I'm being a little critical, but when I'm playing Pokemon, I want to be in a world that's fully realized, and sometimes some of these things made me feel like it wasn't fully realized. And my least favorite thing about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is that it's not more like Pokemon Legends Arceus. Or is it Arceus? I don't know for sure. I usually say Arceus. Let me know if you say Arceus or Arceus in the comments. It's gonna be really funny to read those back later. Pokemon Legends Arceus introduced me to my favorite way to catch Pokemon, and that is by throwing a Pokeball and seeing if the Pokemon stays in the Pokeball. This became one of my favorite things to do in between major story beats in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And even in the post-game, when I was done with the story, I would still pick the game back up and explore Hisui and just find Pokemon to catch. I really enjoyed gathering items by throwing my Pokeballs at a rock and getting some things from it. And it made the act of exploring the world feel more fluid, and this is what I expected from a game calling itself the open world Pokemon game, which is Scarlet and Violet. Now I understand that the Legends series is supposed to be a spin-off, the action-adventure version of Pokemon, but it's really only got one or two different features from the mainline games. Granted, there are some features that made it from Legends Arceus into Scarlet and Violet, like throwing a Pokeball at a Pokemon to surprise it, but that then starts a battle, which then brings up dialogue, which tells me the Pokemon's move, and then I get to throw a Pokeball. All I wanted was fewer steps to see if I could catch that level 5 Pokemon to get some of its feathers. And since they doubled down on item crafting and gathering materials, I would have expected this to be something you could do a little faster, but you gather materials after a Pokemon match. So why does any of this matter? I mean, from what it sounds like, I enjoy this Pokemon game, and I do, you're right. As a matter of fact, anybody who wanted to enjoy Pokemon Scarlet and Violet probably are, because at the end of the day, it's a decent Pokemon game riddled with some major issues. And it takes a lot for a fan base to get hung up on technical issues when they really love a thing. And in Pokemon's case, a lot of people really love the thing. It was never a question on whether or not Pokemon Scarlet and Violet would sell copies. I mean, this is the most profitable, recognizable, and popular media franchise on the planet right now. People know Pokemon more than they know Mickey Mouse. That's crazy to me. So sales records have been shattered, and now we have to ask ourselves, will Nintendo and the Pokemon Company settle on this level of quality for Pokemon games moving forward if it doesn't hurt their overhead? The optimist in me wants to believe that GameFreak is going to take this experience and apply it to their next Pokemon game and make it better for whatever hardware they're going to be working on. And while we're still talking to the optimist, I also kind of hope that any DLC for Scarlet and Violet might also include some serious fixes for the game. I'm not keeping my hopes up for either of these things. I will hope for the next Pokemon game to be a little more solid and polished. I think that's the very least we can ask for when it comes to the Pokemon series. It's hard to believe that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo are gonna say, slow down, let's test our game more, when it hasn't hurt them. And on top of that, they need to keep releasing Pokemon games so they can make more Pokemon merch, make more Pokemon shows, and more Pokemon everything. They all come from the game, and that to me is gonna keep these games coming whether they improve or not. Right now I'm having a great time working through the story. I caught my first Shiny Voltorb ever, which if you know anything about Pokemon catching, Voltorb explodes at the sight of you, and so to have one that's shiny that didn't blow up, very lucky. Maybe I'll make a YouTube short of that and put it up just because it was a very lucky moment and I feel like it needs to be captured. So that's enough out of me. How have you been enjoying Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Are you enjoying the game? Are the bugs not an issue for you at all? Are you hating the game? Have you stopped playing it? Let me know. We have to talk about this one. If this video made you happy or sad or angry or whatever it made you about Pokemon, make sure you like the video. If you really like the video, you like the sound of my voice, you like the way I talk about things, make sure you subscribe to my channel. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoy my videos. And other than that, I hope you have a great time in Paldea, and I will see you in the next video.